Welcome to this tutorial. We will be speaking about columns in Bootstrap 5, and it's good for us to actually understand also the grid sizing. So let me first create the Bootstrap template, then paste it. This is tutorial number 10 of the Bootstrap files, and it's called grids and columns. Columns.html, grids and columns. Then I'm going to have the sweet container class. I love the container class. And then end of coding life here. Coding life. I can't spell, for Christ's sake. So container, and let's have a heading 1 that says with text danger, and my5 the biggest, and basically says grids and columns. Let me head to the browser. Yes, so to understand it, I'm going to close this. The full width of the browser has 12 columns, 12 equal columns with spacing of probably 15 pixels on the sides, because we are using the container class, so it will be 1, 2, 3 up to 12. To show you that, let me try and use this. So grid columns, and to understand the basic grid layout, I'm going to use a h4 that says and text success and a margin top of 3, just to have basic layout. Then from there, yes, it's showing. From there, I'm going to use the default. So inside a container, you need to put something called a row, and then inside the row is basically one big row. Go all the way. So inside the row is when we can have columns. So if I just have a class of row, then inside the row is when we can have columns, and I just want to use the col, which will divide. The col class is going to divide the columns to equal sizes. To show you that, if having 2 of them, I can just use, I say bg danger. I just want a background of danger, you can see, and this we say 1. See, it's there. But if I want text to be visible, I can just use the text class there. Shows us white. You can use anything. Let's say a. Okay. If we have several of them, let's say 2, 3. Remember we said 12. So you see, a. One is using 3, because it's 3 of them. 1, 2, 3. So 12 divided by 3 is 4. So this one is going to take 12 columns, 12 columns, 12 columns. So let's shift this to B, and we shift this one to C. If we had 4 of them, let's include D. Each is going to occupy 3 columns, so that they fit in. You see, each occupying 4 columns. And if we wanted some margin to the end, that's, let me just put in here some margin so that you can see margin end of 2, just to put in some spacing. You can see each is occupying 2 spaces. I mean 12 divided by 4, that's 3. So 3 columns, 3 columns, 3 columns, 3 columns. Okay, so that's how the basic grid layout looks like. If you want to determine the number of sizes, I mean the size of each column, then we have to put if you use the col, it's going to split the columns equally depending on the elements inside the row. If you want to show the number of columns each is supposed to take, then we can as well just use the same row. Let me copy this, put it down. Column size, if you want to determine how it's going to look. So 12 divided by 4 is 3, as we said. So we just put it 3 here. So it's COL hyphen the size that you want. COL hyphen the size that you want. 3. Here I want them to be equal. So 3 is going to be the same. But the reason why it's breaking off is because of this. So I'm just going to shift this to be 1. Because this is also accounted in the size. 1. Hopefully it fits in. No, it's not fitting in. Okay, let's see how that goes. Still, it's not. Let's just delete all of them because they're occupying this. If we go back, you can see they are all occupying the 12 columns. This is not supposed to be fixed like this. Sometimes you can decide to have different let me give an example here. You can have 2 rows, and here I'm going to put a margin top of 3 just to differentiate them. Yes, then I'm going to use 2 of them instead of all of them. So you can use 8, no, 6 here, actually 7 here, and 5 here, because they can lead up to 12. So this is how it's going to look. And I can actually use a margin end of 2 probably. It's going to shift this to going bottom because there is a gap here. So I'm going to remove that. But you can see if I change this one to BG success, you see this is 7 columns, this is C. So 7, 5. You can shift the number of columns the way you want, not necessarily for them to be the exact one. Here, let me change this one to be success and info. That's how you're going to see. You see. Okay, so that's how you put in the column sizes. If you want it to be responsive to the grid or dependent on the breakpoint that you are in, then you can use the specific size that you want. So if you want it responsive to the grid, let's copy this because we love copy and paste. Column responsiveness. If you want this, let's say, to be 3 each in the small breaking point, we can just put it to be SM. So you can put it in the sense of the small breaking point. Actually, I don't know why I'm not using Emmet, so we'll use, sorry about that, then COL SM, then the number of columns, and you'll see it's like that. But let me put it like this. If we are going to use it only from the LG point, then that's going to be that way. If I try and inspect the column and we go below that, you see they stack on top of each other when we hit the medium breakpoint, and even the smaller ones, they still stack on top of each one. If we go to the large breakpoint, it's when they become inline and occupy the 12 columns the way we have specified them to do. And this can be played the way we want, and we can actually add other contextual classes, I mean the responsive classes. Let's say in medium or small breakpoint, I want them to occupy 2, so COL SM2, not 2, let's say this one to occupy 6, this other ones to occupy, so it's 2, 2 and 2 and 2. So let's see if I want that. Sorry, there needs to be some space here. Okay, so if I get down to the SM, you can see becomes stacked. If I get to MD, it now kicks in 6. Then these other ones use This is the extra small. In extra small breakpoint is going to stack, but from the small breakpoint here, it's going to use whatever we've given. And in this instance, we've said one of them, the A, should be having 6 columns, and then the rest should share 2 2 2 each to make it to 12. Once we hit the large breakpoint, yes, LG, we are going to have 3 each. You can see it now shares equally. So that's how you can use several responsive classes in Bootstrap to be able to also check on the number of columns that you can give. But other times exist where you are knowledgeable in the design that you want, but you also want to actually decide on how all the columns inside a row is going to share, or they're going to share equally. To make you understand, let's use this column responsiveness. I'm still on the responsive grid with rows. I don't know why I put double S there. This is wrong spelling. So first thing you need to do is wrap everything, of course, in a class of row, because you already have a container class here wrapping everything. So have it in a class of row. Inside the class of row, you can have a COL class. Okay, because remember what we said about a COL class, it's going to give you the best in terms of equal columns. So you have the COL, and also we need to give it a background, or let's say success, maybe with a border, and as many as possible, let's say 10. Okay, and we say all the way down 1 2 3 4 5. Not a must that you do it this way, it's just that I want to differentiate them in a manner that is okay for you. Number 10, if I save this and I go back to the browser, it's going to appear like this, okay, with some little border to the side. So to actually have them showing the same thing, I'll just come here to the row class and show that this is row calls, row with columns, and I want it at 1, each to occupy 1 column. And as you can see, it's going to occupy 1, not 1 column. Like each column should occupy the full width, it's 1. Okay, so if we want it to, let's say, occupy 2, split into 2, it's going to do like that. It's 2 divided into 2. So the number of columns that you've given divided into 2. If you want each to be 3, each row to be 3 of them, add it at 3. It's going to count that until it's number 10 is the only remaining one. Okay, but we can also give it contextual. So if generally we want it to be sharing 3, but in the small breakpoint we want it to be sharing row calls SM, want it to have 2, and then in midpoint row calls MD to be having 4. Let's save and see. So we start with the extra small. It's 3 because we have shown that if nothing is existing, we have 3. If we go to the small breakpoint, it's still 3. We have not yet gotten to the small breakpoint. Row calls SM2. SM2. Let's restart this server. Sorry, I'm having some play here. Okay, so it's 4 of them. If I inspect, this is extra small. Okay, it's going to 3, and it's going to 2 because we specified here on the SM level we want 2. So once you hit that, it shows 2. It's sharing 2 of them. Once we get to the MD, it's going to 4, because that's what we explained here. If I say row calls LG 5, then it's going to share 5 of them. See, we hit the large, it's going to share 5 of them. So that's how you're able to remember. This number here is not the number of columns, it's the number of items to be shared per row, as opposed to this, which is the number of columns here if you use the COL. Remember, each item needs to have the COL attribute, because it's going to check on equal sizing of all the columns in the row. That's how you're able to use the grids and column in Bootstrap. I hope you've understood. See you in the next tutorial, where we are probably going to learn about the flex work. But before I go, I'm going to also show you how you can be able to nest several rows in one. Let me show you that. There's some extra knowledge that you can get from this tutorial. So let's talk about nesting. So you have one row class. Inside the row class, you have, let's say, 2 columns. Let's use the COL attribute. I want to copy A and B. Okay, inside this. But inside the row, you can actually have another one. But let's say you have in one of the column, let's say in this column, which I don't know how. So danger, success. Then inside this, which you are going to name whatever you want to name, which probably you want to info. Inside this, I don't want any of this. Let's remove this and use the contextual color. Inside this, we can have another row. And inside this row, I can have 2 other. So let's say C and D, which are going to share this column inside the row. So C and D. Okay, if I save this and go to the browser, you can see. So if I use the COL, it's going to check. It was supposed to be 3, A, B, C, but this one is occupying 4 columns, then this one is sharing 2 each, because it's nested in a row. So that's how you're able to nest a row. And you can also nest a column and all that kind of things, but it's better to nest rows. Columns nesting is going to complicate your text, your coding, and it's not beneficial in any way. If you're having rows like this one, let me just copy this one, and you have to put in some space between the elements, then you can use what is called the gutters. Let me copy this. Gutters. Here. Let me see. Yes, it's here. So if you want to put some spacing, just do G5. Remember when we did the gap in stacking, this one we can do, can see? It's put in some gap, as you can see here and here. Because of the row in the nested ones as well, let me just remove this and you see what I mean. Let me save. See gap 5, and it's best that we'll be able to show where we want the items to be shown. And for example, here if I undo this, if I put here the gap of 5 as well, let me see, it's not going to show. But if I put here, yes, there's some space to it, so you can put in some gutter, as you can see. To better explain this, let me just start. So we are here, and let's say we have some items, the columns with COL4 and COL4. So gutter 5, and then I've applied, and then COL for example. And in this, I'm just going to say text 1. Or probably to save on space, let's let it be in a straight line. And this again, duplicate it, text 2. And inside this, actually, instead of that, because it doesn't make any difference here, you can see it. And a background. I need to also create some background so that you're able to see what the difference is. So I'm going to cut this and put it in a class of text. Let's say BG Light, and a border class, and a padding bottom of, let's say, but there's no need to put in padding. Let's just do BG Light, and even there is no also need for let me just type it, and we have text 1. If I copy the same and apply it to this other one, nice. If I text 2, if I save this and go to the browser, you can now see there's some little aspects of the gutter to it. And let me actually use success for you to see, and then this one is danger for you to see. You see there's some gutter difference to the two. Also, and they need to, let's say this one is COL, so 4 plus 5, that's 9. I'm trying to occupy the full width. 12 minus 9, that is 3. So let's do text 3, and here it's going to be COL3, and warning. Let's see. So it keeps in the gutter but counts the column. Remember when we did ME to give margin end of, let's say, 1 2 3 up to 5, it was pushing it to the next column, the next row. But in this one, it's not. It's just going to put everything in the column dimension that you've given, the column sizing that you've given, and check out how you can put in the gutters. So that's how to use the spacing between the columns. Use the gutter, and the gutter is applied on the row item. And the mistake we were doing before is we cannot use nesting with the gutters. You can, but it's a bit more complicated on how to code it. That's why I gave this example. And if you do that, sometimes you might not want to just have an element that is centered perfectly. You might want to offset. And that's what we are going to learn next. Offsetting columns in Bootstrap 5. Let me copy. Actually, let's code this. We are going to have this. I hope I'm outside. Yes. So, offsetting. Then inside that, we are going to, as always, create a row. Then inside the row, we are going to probably have similar items the way we created this, but I'm just going to copy text 1 and text 2. Boom. If I save this and I go to the browser, you can see on offsetting, it's having some difference here because of this COL attribute. But if you want to offset this to go towards the right, let's say from the end here, we can actually offset. So 4 plus 5 is 9, and I want to offset 2 or 3. So I'm going to put an offset attribute and put 3, and see the magic happening. It's pushed 3 columns to the end, which gets this one to the farthest end. So that's how you offset column. You put the offset attribute to the column that you want to put. I used this example so that we are able to understand what it means. To code faster. Now, lastly, you can order columns the way you want. You're not limited to it following each other in a stacking order or in whatever order Bootstrap gives. I'm going to give these columns 1 all the way to 5 here. And as always, let's use a row. And inside the row, I'm going to paste the columns that have actually. So it's just basically a COL, a background color, and a border. You see it there? Okay. So let me change here just for danger. Info. Boom. Yeah, now there's some differentiation factor to it. To order them, you just add the order flag or the order class to it. So I'll just say this is order for number 5 because I know there are 5 items. So I'll just order 3. This is order 1, because initially you can see it used 1 all the way up to 5. See what happens when you change the order. Then order 2. Let's keep number 4 to be number 4, and then we say 2. Save. You see, it's mixed it up, so it's 3, 5, 2, 4, 1. 4 is kept at order number 4. So that's how you're able to shift the orders in Bootstrap. You can shift the columns the way you want in terms of order. You're not fixed to the default Bootstrap numbering or the default Bootstrap layering. That's it. See you in the next tutorial where we are going to learn about the flex box, and we've just used it somewhere by using the d-flex. See you then. Bye bye.